Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Model Building Start to Finish. This is John sitting with
Dan?
We're back with this Southern Pacific boxcar.
Yeah. We're going to start some of the exterior detailing.
Okay.
And the instructions recommend starting with the end detail, so that's, I think, where we're going to start too. The instructions recommend starting with the end grab irons. The kit includes some plastic grab irons, but I think these metal ones will look better. These are some phosphor bronze straight grab irons from Tichy, and I'm going to have to shorten all of them. I did one of them here just to see the difference. These other three are kind of stock out of the package.
Okay.
But what I'll have to do is open up the holes in the ends of the car. It already has some dimples, but I'll have to drill them out. So
Okay.
we'll do that next.
Yeah, and I think I remember seeing this before because the plastic ones are thicker, aren't they?
They are. These will look a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're more to scale.
All right.
I'm going to drill these holes out with the number 78 drill bit.
So how many are there on that? Is it
2
4?
grab irons in each end. So I put one grab in already, and I'm just using some CA glue to attach them.
You can see just having to be so careful. Like if I tried to do this, it would probably flop out of the pliers and get lost on the floor or something, and I'd give up.
If you do like I did just now and accidentally push it in too far, you can get a X-Acto knife or a little screwdriver and just kind of work it back out. Like that. Okay, next there's these other grab irons, and these are tricky because it's really hard to cut them off the sprue without breaking them. In fact, one's already broken, and I haven't even done anything with this yet.
Well, I have a question about this.
Yeah.
I thought we were using metal grabs for these.
Well, these are a special kind, though. These have a little bracket
Oh, okay.
attached to them, so this isn't just like a piece of wire. This is
Okay.
more a more elaborate part, so you really can't substitute wire for these.
Okay.
So I'm going to try something here. The whole idea is I'm trying to cut these off without stressing the plastic, because what happens is if you stress this, they'll break in the middle.
Yeah, they look very fragile.
They are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the sprue here with my sprue cutter and then cut it here.
Oh, I see. You're giving it a place to bend, sort of, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to cut between all of them, and then I'll cut the end. And then I can cut the other end.
Yeah.
And that way, yeah, see, I got it out without breaking it.
Right.
So now I have to cut out the rest of them. So I've positioned the grab iron on the car, and I'm going to use some liquid styrene cement to secure it. Just a little touch there, and a little touch on this side. Now, as you can see, I put some glue on the paint, but as long as you don't disturb it and let it dry, it'll be fine. It won't screw anything up.
Okay. And besides, you're going to weather that anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is very delicate work, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. The next thing the instructions say to do is to install the end ladders. And this is another situation where it's very difficult to remove these pieces from the sprue without breaking it. So this is the end ladder here, these two shorter ones. And so I'm going to just trying to cut in ways that hopefully won't break anything.
Yeah, it's all about reducing the stress on the part as you're cutting it off the tree, isn't it?
Right. So by cutting it twice here, that should allow this to flex.
Yeah.
Because what I really want to do is cut here, but I want to make sure that I don't break it. In there. Now I can do that. See, this can move a little bit now.
Yeah. Does anybody make these parts in brass or?
I'm not sure. They do make plastic aftermarket parts,
Yeah.
but I don't know if anybody making brass ones that would fit this exact car.
Yeah, seems like there might be a market for brass end ladders if they're the right size.
Yeah. They'd have to offer them for quite a few different kinds of cars, though, if they did that. So now I can attach the ladder to the end of the car. And these have some pins on them that fit in holes, and it'll only fit one way.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so there's really no way to put it in upside down unless you force it. So don't force it.
I always appreciate design like that because otherwise it's easy to mess things up if you're not really paying attention.
Yeah, so there it just fits in like that, and then I'll secure it with the same liquid styrene cement.
It almost seems like you should be able to or would be able to glue it from the inside. Is that a possibility, or does it not go all the way
I
through?
don't think the holes go all the way through.
So this is what we refer to as separately applied ladders.
Yes.
So someday if you decide to review the model that you built, you'll already know it had separately applied
Yeah, I don't know if
irons
that
and
really
ladders.
is a fair review to review a car that I custom built myself. I can give myself 10 out of 10 spikes.
You can earn 10 out of 10 spikes every time.
Yeah.
Wow, more parts?
More parts. Yeah, the B end of the car has some more stuff on it
Okay.
for the brake details. So again, it's just a matter of trying to do this and be really careful not to break things.
Yeah. We're making jokes off camera about how much cutting of pieces out of sprues can we watch. And I think, though, Dan, because this is supposed to be sort of a more in-depth look at doing what we do, I think it's appropriate to show this too. You know,
Yeah.
'cause this is a pretty important part of the process. The
The-
important thing, though, to remember is being extra careful so that you don't break the
Right.
pieces.
And usually with these little pipes, I try to start, just like I did with the underbody brake rigging, I try to start from one end and then kind of free it up and then work my way down to the other end. I always think about what's putting stress on the plastic
Mhm.
and try to avoid that. All right, so I'm going to deviate a little bit from the sequence they recommend in the instructions. They recommend gluing the brake wheel to the brake mechanism first and then gluing it to the car. I find it easier to leave the brake wheel off until after the brake mechanism's already on the car. Also, they recommend putting the retainer pipe on after you put the brake wheel assembly on. And I think it's easier to do it first because you already have the ladder here. The brake's going to be over here, and then the retainer kind of goes between those. So if you have to kind of put this part between two other parts, it's a little harder. So I think it's easier to kind of work from one side to the other.
It seems weird that they would even have it that way. Like, I wonder what I know we don't know the answer to this, but I wonder what their rationale was for that.
I don't know, but
Maybe the instructions were written and they just didn't want to change the file.
yeah. In fact, some other brands of kits, they actually put the retainer pipe on first.
Mm-hmm.
So, make sure to see what the instructions recommend. Again, I'm just going to use some liquid styrene cement to attach this.
It seems to me, though, and at least in the case of this, now it could just be because you're as experienced making this stuff as you are, but it seems almost like the instructions are more of guidelines and not dogmatic, like you really have to do it this way.
Well, they are. I mean,
Yeah.
some of it is just common sense, to put something on before something else is in the way,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. One thing I'm liking about this kit is stuff seems to be fitting in without me having to drill the holes out, which sometimes I have to do.
Yeah, that's always a bonus, huh?
Yeah, so this is the brake mechanism. It's got two little pins fit in the end up here.
This is actually pretty good detail. I mean,
It is. It's a nice kit.
I can see why some of the higher end models cost what they do, because they're saving you all. Now, of course, they have their manufacturing process streamlined, so it's probably not like you putting together one car at a time, but still,
Right.
even applying separately applied stuff like this has to be a pain for somebody somewhere.
Right. So the stem that sticks out the back of the brake wheel is way too long, so I'm going to cut that quite a bit. Not completely off, of course, because you want a little stub left to put in the hole in the brake mechanism. Okay, because it's hard to get my brush in there, I'm using a little bit of CA glue on the end of what's left of the stem that comes out of the back of the brake wheel, and then I'll just put it in the hole here.
Wow, I mean, I can't even see something this small. I would have to have one of those jeweler's loops or something.
Yeah. This is a pretty tight fit. You can kind of wiggle it in a little bit, but you don't want to press too hard because, you can break it. A couple more things to cut out are these brake platform supports. Again, being very careful not to break them. Now, there is a brake platform included, but I'm not going to use that because I'm going to use a photo-etched piece. But I will use the supports.
Okay. Oh, so you're going to use the supports to hold the photo etched piece?
Right.
Okay. It kind of
Oops.
makes sense it kind of makes sense to still use those because it's going to be under the brake platform, so it doesn't really matter.
Right. The other thing I'm going to cut out is the tack boards while I'm here.
Uh-huh.
So we just need two of those, one for each end.
Wow, more separately applied detail.
Yeah.
Handling stuff. Jeez.
So I put one of the supports on, and I'll put the other one on. There's little holes here that it fits into. It's a little tricky because you got to kind of squeeze it a little bit to get it to go in there.
Yeah, this would really test my patience, Dan.
Yeah, and then once it's in, I'll use some more liquid styrene cement. I should probably mention that I did some research, and I found out that while SP did have cars like this, it's actually not authentic in this paint scheme.
Did this company make a whole bunch of these models and just do different paint jobs, or like they sometimes do?
Yeah, I think they did. Southern Pacific had this car is actually fairly close to a B5023 boxcar. And this is supposed to be a B5024, which is similar, but they had some differences, and the ends aren't quite right, and there's a couple other small things. It's very close, but if you're really a purist, you might not want to have this, or you might want to consider it a stand-in or something.
Yeah. Now I wonder though, is it possible just through creative addition or subtraction of details to make it accurate, or?
You'd basically have to completely replace the ends of the car.
Oh, that's not feasible.
Yeah. Well, that's not a project I want to do for this particular car.
Got it.
So the last thing on the ends for now are the tack boards. You might want to study photos, even though this car isn't 100% authentic anyway, to determine where they go, because early 50s, a lot of times they put them up higher, and then at some point they moved them down lower.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to put them in the lower position. That seems to be where the photos that I have show them. So I will do that. And there aren't any locator holes or anything for these. So you just kind of have to position it where you want it and then glue it.
What, do you just hold it in place until the glue sets, or?
Yeah, what I like to do is to glue one end. So I'm just going to put a little drop there, and then that leaves the other end free. I can wiggle it a little bit to make sure that it's straight.
Almost seems like it might be easier or better to use a tool to put it in place. Because doesn't it kind of stick to your finger from the oil on your finger?
No, that looks pretty straight, I think. Now I'll glue the other end.
They're pretty solid, though, once you glue them on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, so the ends of the car are now pretty much done, at least for the moment. We'll add some more stuff later, but I think this is probably a good place to break.
Okay.
And we can pick it up next week with the side detail on the car.
Okay, so this brings an end to the detailing the ends chapter. Yeah. We'll catch everybody next time on our next episode of Model Building Start to Finish. Thanks for watching.